Thank you for downloading this podcast from the British Theatre Guide. For more information about British Theatre Guide, please visit britishtheatreguide.info. PUSH, from Manchester's Home Arts Centre, is an annual festival each January that brings together Manchester-based performance artists and companies for just over 2 weeks of performances, readings, workshops, screenings, exhibitions and other events. At the launch on Friday the 12th of January 2018, I spoke to one of the programming team for PUSH, Home's own Jodie Ratcliffe, and asked her to give an overview of the festival as a whole.
My name's Jodie Ratcliffe and I have programmed and produced the theatre strand of PUSH Festival at Home, along with the help of my team.
OK, so what have we got to look forward to over the next 2 weeks then?
Well, today is day one of the festival, so many months of work I can finally see it and I can touch it and I can see the people around me and finally I feel like we can welcome the festival. And this is day one of 2 weeks worth of creative interventions and performances, an opportunity to play really for the artists to be able to experiment and to learn things as well and to meet new people. So you'll see lots of workshops across all art forms, as well as we've got 21 theatre companies in this year's festival performing over 70 performances over the 2 weeks. So it's going to be a really busy and really diverse and exciting fortnight. And we've also got a lot of sharings of new pieces of work and scratch performances. So we've kind of separated the two spaces that we have here. So Theatre 2 we're using as we're going to show fully finished performances. And then Theatre 1 we're using as a bit more of a playful space where people can come in, they can share a little piece of work for 20 minutes and then get feedback from their audiences. Or we're also showing, we've got an orchestra in that space as well, the Manchester Collective, and we've got rehearsed readings. So we have a really diverse array of theatre across the 2 weeks.
So who are the companies that are involved? Are they local companies or the ones that you program from elsewhere?
Yeah, they're all local companies. So this year we've expanded. In the past we've just been a Manchester-based festival, so it's for Manchester, by and for Manchester artists. But this year we've expanded it, so we've brought in talent from the Northwest. So our slogan is kind of 2 weeks of inspiring performances, workshops and more fresh from the Northwest. So all of our artists are from around this area, which is really nice. It's really nice to engage with local people, and they're all getting to know each other. A lot of them know each other anyway, and they're mates as well down the pub, but they're also able to engage in really exciting conversations and maybe start new connections with those people and meet people as well that they've never met before, which is really exciting.
So it's for developing relationships between artists as well as for audiences then?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like PUSH is a really pivotal moment in helping the artists. It's great that we have really good audiences and it's great that those artists are able to put work in front of our wonderful audiences. But also I think one of the main things is that we're able to introduce artists to each other across all art forms. So today we kicked off the day with a networking event, which was an opportunity for all of the theatre companies to come together to talk about the work that they create and to meet other theatre companies that are potentially like-minded, and maybe they'll work together, or maybe they're completely different but they want to learn from each other's skills, or maybe they'll just support each other and go to each other's shows. But it's definitely a moment that companies can come together, and we like to support the artists through whatever creative adventure they want to go on.
Are these mainly works that were already around, or have you actually commissioned any yourself?
A mixture. So over the past, I'd say about 9 months, we've been out into the city. We've been to Edinburgh to see a lot of Manchester and Northwest-based artists and their work. We've been to the Greater Manchester Fringe. We've been all around Liverpool and everywhere, just seeing lots of work. So a lot of the shows that we have got here have already been in existence, and we're just bringing those as they are. But some of them we have commissioned. So this year, for the first time ever, we put out a commission which gave the opportunity to 3 companies, and that enabled them they had to apply, and we had about 100 applications, and that means that they get a made-at-home slot, which gives them extra rehearsal space on top of what you would usually get in the festival, as well as £1,000 commission towards the production of a new show. So we've got 3 companies that are part of that. So that's really, really great that we're able to help them financially, as well as mentoring and rehearsals and marketing and technical support, in order to put on a show that might have just been an idea in the head 6 months ago, and now they're performing it next week. Yeah.
There's one project in particular that's interesting, because it's been done in its entirety a couple of times, but then it's been spread across the festival, the Manchester Project, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. So that one is also a commission, actually. So we had the 3 commissions, and we've also separately got this Manchester Project commission. It's run by Monkeywood Theatre Company, and they have commissioned themselves 19 different writers. All of them are from different areas of Manchester. And they have been asked to write a short piece, a short play or spoken word performance about the place that they're from. So each place is titled Droylsden or City Centre or Chorlton, and the play represents their place that they're from. So we're going to be showing all of those on Saturday the 13th, tomorrow, and Saturday the 20th of January at 2:30, and you'll be able to come and see all of those together. So you'll get a picture of Manchester, but also throughout the festival, before all of the Theatre 2 shows, we're going to just, before the performer comes on, we're going to have just one reading. So we might have Berry before Sam Ward's project. Yes, no. So you will get a little snippet of bits of readings and performances throughout the festival as well.
So you're not going to get much of a break over the next 2 weeks then?
Well, no, I am going to try. I'm going to be at every single event, but I think it's really important to look after yourself as well. So I'm going to be having mornings off, I think, and then coming in for the afternoons and evenings to try and look after myself. But I'm really, really excited to see everything and to just welcome everybody here. And I really want to throw myself into the festival, and I hope that everybody else does too.
After Jodie's overview, I spoke to some of the individual contributors to the festival to ask about their work. Ben Mellor of Pen-Chant, Emilie and Laura of Meraki Collective, Remi from Truth Be Told, Josh Coates on the Untitled AI project, Martin Gibbons of Monkeywood Theatre on the Manchester Project, and Sue Jenkins, director of Narcissist in the Mirror, written and performed by her daughter Rosie Fleeshman.
I'm Ben Mellor, and I am the founder and host of an event called Pen-Chant, or Pen-Chant, if you're pronouncing it correctly. But we're a sort of a multi-art form event. We program spoken word, live music, comedy, performance, basically anything goes, really. So we have a sort of a mixed bill of guest artists every event, and also an open mic. So we sort of provide a platform for local artists and emerging artists to develop their work as well. And and I host it, and it's all a lot of fun.
So you're the MC for an event that's quite unpredictable, it sounds.
Yeah, it's fairly. I'm probably about the most unpredictable element of it, to be honest. And the open mic is always interesting. It's always a mixed bag, because we try to encourage people to perform, different genres, and we do end up with quite a few poets, because my background is in spoken word and performance poetry, so it does sort of tend to attract quite a predominance of poets, I'd say. But we've also had comedians and musicians and stuff on the open mic, and that's we program very eclectically as possible. So,
well, poetry seems to have gone big all of a sudden, doesn't it? It's hate to say the new rock and roll, but it's going in that direction, isn't it?
I mean, it's definitely experiencing a heyday. It's funny when you're involved in a thing, for your whole kind of creative career. It feels like that's always the sort of you're always busy doing it, so it sort of always feels like the main thing to you. But I think it's definitely having a moment in the sun, I'd say. It comes and goes. It always has, though, over the years. And especially sort of connected to sort of musical movements and sort of like political movements, and there's a lot of kind of current crossover with sort of like hip hop and things as well, but not only that at all. I think that the sort of explosion of sort of like online content has kind of been a massive sort of boost, I think. But it's great. It's nice to be part of that, I think. Yeah.
What tends to be the general atmosphere on? Does it tend to be mostly comedy, or do they get serious?
A Pen-Chant, or it really is a mixed bag. So the event that we're doing tomorrow night, we've got Dave Viney, who's a local poet. He's a sort of real stalwart of the Manchester poetry scene, and I mean he's very funny, but you know, he can also sort of move you to tears if he chooses to. You know, he's got sort of runs the gamut of emotions. Really does Dave. And then we've got a brilliant, fabulous stand-up called Jonathan Mayer, who's sort of really, I mean, hilarious, quite sort of outrageous, very flamboyant, lots of sort of glitter and sequins and and high heels often. And then we've got Josephine Oniyama, who's a fantastic singer-songwriter, a really unique voice to have come out of Manchester and is doing amazingly well on the kind of, you know, national and global stage these days. So it's great to be bringing her back to Manchester, back to her roots, to come and perform with us. So yeah, it's a real, it's got something for everyone, I think. I like to think anyway.
I'm Emilie, I'm one half of Meraki Collective.
I am Laura, I'm the other half of Meraki Collective.
So what's Meraki Collective doing in the festival?
So we've got a show called Only Speak When Spoken To, and it's all about sort of social politeness and etiquette and the sort of rules that we put on ourselves and what other rules people put on us and things like that, and the consequences of breaking those rules, perhaps.
What form does the show take?
It's a dance theatre piece. It's dance theatre, yeah. So there's a lot of comedy in it, there's a bit of puppetry, there's some live looping as well. And yeah, should be good fun.
Quite fashionable, the live looping thing now, isn't it?
I know, yeah, definitely. We work, like Meraki Collective work on a wider scale with a lot of like musicians using dance and music to make collaborative work. So it sort of feels natural to use it in a performative show as well. Yeah. So yeah, we've been working alongside other artists, puppeteers, musicians, visual artists, all sorts of things to try and make this show.
Yeah, so putting it with dance and
exactly,
puppets,
yeah,
that's something different.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, dance theatre itself is a mixed art form, so why wouldn't we then include other art forms? Yes.
So I'm Remi, I'm from Truth Be Told, creative artistic director of Truth Be Told, which is I suppose an interdisciplinary company of dance, music, everything.
Okay. And so what are you doing in the festival?
So I'm doing this thing called True Stories. It's a show which is including rap, it's including singing, it's including dancing, it's including acting as well. And I'm working with 4 different, including me, there's 4 actors a part of the show. And it's just about true stories, essentially. Like, what are the things that you want to tell people that you wouldn't have told people before, essentially, that might make somebody cringe or make somebody laugh, that you might be embarrassed about. And what we're all doing is, through our different art forms, essentially just telling those stories, letting it all out there, basically. Like, now it's out there, you can laugh, I don't care. If you think, that's disgusting, okay. I've told it through art now, it's done. You know?
So the aim is to embarrass yourselves and each other?
Yeah, pretty much. But also to embarrass the audience to a degree as well, because obviously the audience are going to feel probably uncomfortable, but, you know, that's fine. It's art, you know.
You're going to buy a ticket to feel uncomfortable?
Yeah, like, ooh, no, that's weird.
I'm Josh. I work collaboratively with Ali Pidsley, who's the third director, and I'm here for the Untitled AI project, which is about a robot called Steve who, after a series of workplace incidents, commits suicide in a fountain, which is based off a true story that happened in a mall in California this last year. That sort of went quite big on Twitter because everyone found it quite funny that this robot, that big AI thing, was able to, you know, fall into a fountain and die. People found that quite funny, and we kind of both fell in love with that story, did more research, and yeah, it's a show from at first just being this sort of like quite fun, like, oh, robots, hey, to being a show which is about things that can make people ill and take their own lives within the workplace. So from kind of like fun beginnings, it's now very political.
Did you know it was going to go in that direction?
No, not at all. So we sort of both make work that is always like really political in both our separate theatre companies, Powder Keg and Barrel Organ. And when we first started talking about the show, we were like, we like sci-fi things. This is a true robot story we wanted to sell. But like, because we are driven to kind of question the society we exist in constantly, it just happened to turn into this sort of show where we were like, oh, we're going to present this sort of like fun thing, but at the heart of it, it's going to be, it's going to reflect on things which a lot of people, a lot of audience members we know have experienced in some shape or form.
And is there a robot in it?
That would be spoilers. You would have to come to see the show.
Okay.
I'm Martin Gibbons, I'm from Monkeywood Theatre, and I'm directing the Manchester Project.
Which is quite a big project that's it's not just a one-off, it goes throughout the whole festival, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's basically, to sort of, for those who don't know, it's 19 short plays, all about 2 minutes long, that we have commissioned 19 Manchester writers to write a play about where they're from in Manchester, like the specific area. So the plays are titled, Chorlton, Denton, Droylsden, Failsworth, etc., 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 around Manchester, 19 different places, and then the idea, we basically put them on in one sort of performance, which is on the 2 Saturdays, the first Saturday and then the last Saturday of the PUSH Festival. But also, we're doing what we're calling pop-up performances, which is one sort of version, one go, if you like, of one of the plays. So it might be that we have Little Hulton, for example, before a show, every show that's in Theatre 2 during the PUSH Festival. So that's approximately another 20, 30 productions that we're doing, but only like 2 minutes. So
I'm glad to hear my hometown of Denton's represented in there somewhere. So,
absolutely, we're all about Denton Rock, which of course you will know, but not many. I didn't, but now I am very aware of the beauty that is Denton Rock.
It's just a sign next to the roundabout where all the
on Junction 24. Yes. Yeah, exactly. It's such a random thing, but that we, and that's one of the things I think is really important about the project. It's not just it's not just isn't Manchester brilliant, but it's what is Manchester? Without getting too deep into this with you now, David, the sort of the concept of it came. We're a Manchester theatre company. We've been wanting to do Manchester work for a while. We've been doing Manchester work for several years now, and we've always wondered sort of what that means to be a Manchester theatre company. And this project came about, and we were talking about how we could do something that felt sort of really Manchester and felt like how we can sort of see ourselves in the city and sort of what is the city and what is theatre and what is it in Manchester. And then obviously the awful events of the arena bombing happened, and people started talking all of a sudden about the Manchester spirit. We're like, it's the Manchester spirit this, it's Manchester spirit that. And we were like, I have no idea what that means. It's definitely a thing. I think we can all say that it's a thing, but what does it mean? So we were like, how do we find out what that means? Because there's so many different areas of Manchester, so many different things in Manchester, and it's like, how do we sort of bring all that together to sort of get a sense of what Manchester is? And well, I mean, we've got another 30-ish places to find, but at the moment we've concentrated on our first 19 of and trying to create sort of this theatrical map of Manchester, that what is it in these places that makes these stories that when you put it all together, it suddenly becomes, this is Manchester, right there.
So as somebody who yourself isn't from Manchester, have you got an impression of what Manchester is?
Well, I mean, as you point out, I mean, I'm a complete alien to this little village, but it's I've got a sense of it because I feel it and I live it, and I've lived here for 14 years now, and I feel like a native, but my heart is still in Middlesbrough. Just an aside there. But it's so many different things, isn't it? And that's the thing. And I would defy anyone to actually stand there and go, Manchester is, and then finish off that sentence, because it's everything. It's such a mix. One of the plays actually puts it really well. It's a mix. It's an amalgam. It's different people having different experiences. And I guess getting a bit philosophical with you here, David, but I would say one of the things it is it's quite an accepting place, and it's quite an accepting of the differences. And I think that's a thing in itself, isn't it? To be accepting of being a mixed place, if that makes any sense.
It makes perfect sense, because we get on brilliantly with our much older neighbours, but I know for a fact that we didn't vote the same way in the referendum. So.
Or we could go down a long dark road there, David. I think I'm walking with you, but I think we could go down a long road there.
So how do you go about commissioning 19 different plays?
I mean, how do you? Do you want to know the truth? What you do is you send out probably more than 19 invitations, and actually in all seriousness, what we did was we thought about the people from Manchester that we know are good artists, are good writers, not all necessarily writers, in the sort of theatrical sense in terms of having written plays before, but we we basically asked them if they wanted to write and we actually said, come visit us. We were here in home, and we had a rehearsal room, and we said, come visit us. We want 2 hours of your time. Come sit with us. We put some music on. We had a map that we started drawing of Manchester, and we started trying to sort of think about things and images that represent Manchester. And we basically said, all we want from you is 2 hours. Come and write us a 2-minute play about your area. And that's basically what you're seeing. There's been a little bit since we did that in May or June or whatever it was. We've had a little bit of, second drafting, if you like. And now what we've got here is a culmination of all of those 19 plays. A little bit of polish, not much. We've had a week. So, we haven't had long to do 19 plays, but we've put a bit of polish on them and a bit of music and a bit of sound and a bit of sort of trying to create a theatricality to it. And yeah, that's what we've got. We've been very lucky to have 19 very understanding writers that have written 19 brilliant plays. One of the things I would say as the director is when you're working with 19 plays, it's really funny. I hope that this project is successful because, and I think it is, because when I'm rehearsing each one, I think, I love this one. And then another one comes along. Those actors, for example, leave the room, and another one comes along and go, I love this one. So hopefully that, you might not love all 19, but, let's go for a good hit rate.
I'm Sue Jenkins, and I'm producer and director of Narcissist in the Mirror, written by Rosie Fleeshman.
Your daughter, of course.
My daughter, and also Rosie it's a one-woman show, so she's the performer in it as well.
So what's it about?
Gosh, I wish Rosie was here. Rosie would say, I think, that fundamentally it came out of her looking inside of herself, and it's a brutally honest show. And before I go any further, it's really not heavy. It's actually at times incredibly laugh out loud funny, but it is dealing with very real issues. And I think, sort of the headline we've kind of looked at is she expected the world to fall at her feet. And I think Rosie would say that was probably her story, maybe. And then it's dealing with those disappointments and the harshness and the reality of not just the industry, but life as well. It could be said to be sort of part of a millennial kind of problem. But I think I truly believe it's an everyman show, because there's a great soundbite I can use that Rosie gave to actually somebody just the other day. And she said, we all think that everybody else has got the instruction manual to life. And actually, none of us have. But we always think the other man's grass is greener, and that's why I think the show appeals to everybody. It is about insecurities. It is about everything that all of us experience all the time, about trying to get through this life as best we can. So it is very poignant at times, to the point of really touching, but it's incredibly funny too. It's great writing, actually.
It's just about growing up then and finding out that life is every man for himself.
Totally. It's about facing reality and suddenly realising when you're bordering kind of quarter of a century, which is what she is. She just turned 25. She wrote it in January 17. So it's quite, it's really her first play. It's her first bit of writing. She's incredibly humble. I'm not on her behalf because I think her writing's phenomenal. And luckily other people have agreed with me. But yeah, it is about that. Absolutely. It's about growing up and realising life's not what you thought it was going to be.
And it's already been performed a few times, and it's got some pretty fantastic reviews already, hasn't it?
I know, it's amazing. Well, it was first performed at 53.2. I mean, the backstory is Rosie trained as an actress at Rose Bruford in London, and she thought the world would fall at her feet, and I think that's true, And then she found it wasn't, because, do you know what? Being a young actor now, it's really hard, really difficult. You can be brilliant. I'm not being biased, but she is. But you still don't always get the work. And she lived in London for a year. And then she came back to Manchester, and as she says in the piece, moved back in with my parents, that's not cool. And she took herself off travelling to see if there was anything else in the world she wanted to do more. And that's when she started to write. And she came back writing a lot of spoken word. And suddenly she'd go into competitions and she'd come back, she'd go, Mum, I won £20 tonight. She kept winning. And to her, that was a lot of money at the time, And then it grew from there. And the spoken word built up and up and up. And we had this conversation, and I said, you know, you've nearly got a one-woman play here. She said, oh, I could never write a play. I went, Rosie, you've nearly got one. Anyway, to cut the long story short, it incorporates spoken word, but you hardly notice. It segues from dialogue into spoken word really cleverly, and she wrote the whole piece. We took it to 53.2, and that was just an experiment, and it was like standing ovations and full house 2 nights. Then we put it into the GM Fringe, and it, as you say, got great reviews. And then we took it to the Millgate in Saddleworth, who was so supportive. They'd seen it and said, look, we'd love it there. That was a 160-seater, and it was full. And then Walter, wonderful Walter from home, and Jodie saw it at the King's Arms in the Fringe and said, we'd love to have it as part of the push. So that was like winning the pools. I mean, it was fantastic, you know. And, you know as well as I do, when I say winning the pool, it's so not about the money. Do you know what I mean? It's about getting the work out there, and there's a great belief. She believes in her writing, and it's getting a wider audience. That's the aim, you know.
So, and they always say it's a bad idea to teach your son or daughter to drive, but what's it like to direct your daughter?
Well, I'm not teaching Rosie anything, thankfully, but we've had many a sort of light-hearted conversation today, even when people have said that, you know, it's got its pros and cons. And the story I tell is, if I say to Rosie, as I did in the early days of directing her, as I would say to any actor, Rosie, I don't think that moment's working. And you expect an actor to go, oh, let me work on that, let me try that again, you know, a different thought. And she went, well, it will when I've got an audience, you know. And we joke and kind of go, you wouldn't say that to any other director, you know. But we have a great relationship, and I think we're very honest with each other, and we respect each other. And oh my God, I mean, I do think she's genuinely phenomenally talented. And we sometimes she will say, Mom, don't talk just about the show. So I'll go in, maybe take her in a cup of tea or something, and she'll expect me to be saying, do you need any washing doing? And I'll say, I've had an idea about, you know what I mean? So there is that. But actually, she has just moved out again, I have to say. So maybe she's moved out because of that. I don't know. But no, we you know, I think for the most part, we can honestly say it's been a successful relationship in that way, you know. But it's not been plain sailing, because, as you say, if you try and teach your daughter or your son to drive, it's, you know. But no, it's great. And I think it's the mutual respect of the work that's got us through.
Push 2018 runs at Home Manchester from Friday the 12th to Saturday the 27th of January. For more information, including the full programme of events, see the theatre's website at homemcr.org. You've been listening to a podcast from British Theatre Guide. For more information, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.